Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah, Randy.
Since we founded Bombas, we've always said our socks, underwear, and T-shirts are super soft. Any new ideas?
Maybe sublimely soft.
Or disgustingly cozy.
Wait, what?
I got it. Bombas. Absurdly comfortable essentials for yourself
And for those facing homelessness.
Because one purchased equals one donated.
Wow, did we just write an ad?
Yes.
Bombas. Big comfort for everyone. Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase.
Hello, you are listening to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we talk about those films we think deserve a little bit more love. Whether they're underrated or underseen, we're gonna talk about them. So, let's see what it's gonna be this week. Hello, welcome again to another episode of Just Films and That. It's me hosting this week. I'm Josh Hallam, and I'm joined, as ever, by my wonderful co-host. Still new, Jamie Allerton. Jamie, how are you this week, my friend?
I'm good, Josh. Thank you for putting that cover on there as well. He's still new, by the
Still
way.
new.
If this goes
Not
well.
past his probation yet.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, this is episode 3, so
yeah, this is the third
we'll
one.
know by now if there's complaints.
Yeah.
I'm sure Alice has already sent a bunch of emails like, no, just say it was like, have I got news for you? We'll just get different people. Get Angus Dean on. But
Yeah.
Get rid of him.
But anyway, yeah. So this week we're going to be talking about Outbreak from 1995. So spoiler warnings if you've not seen Outbreak on the 29th anniversary of its release. Jamie, you picked this one, so tell the guys at home a little bit about what it's about, and more importantly, why did you pick it?
Well, Josh, Outbreak is a thrilling 1990s what if that asks, what if an Ebola-like virus, Motaba, broke out in the United States and only one rule-breaking colonel could stop it, and will he let his recent divorce to Rene Russo get in the way? So that's Outbreak. I absolutely love 90s thrillers.
Yeah.
There was something about the quality of them back then. I think we were having a conversation when you said you hadn't seen it, and then I was like, well, if Josh hadn't seen it, that means a lot of people haven't seen it. And that means this is underseen. But while I was looking into this, I think it's underrated as well, but when I was looking into this was like really, it kind of had a week within COVID. There was like that first week of COVID when everyone went into lockdown, where people were like, watch Outbreak. It was kind of how, some people before they go on a flight, they watch the start of Final Destination as like,
like numb yourself to it sort of thing.
It's like,
maybe. That's the only thing I knew about it. I hadn't seen it. The only thing I knew was it had a little resurgence during the pandemic, because obviously it's about a potential pandemic. I suppose I should just say before we get into the nuts and bolts of the episode, we are going to be talking about this sort of inevitably through a post-COVID lens, because that's the time we're living in. It's not going to be particularly heavy or anything like that, but obviously if you find any of that triggering, upsetting, then this might not be the episode for you. But I just, you have been warned anyway.
You've been warned, all right?
Yeah, just leave it. Just no, yeah. So you picked it because it's underseen then. So watching it again, what's in your likes column? What did you like about it?
So I love a film with emotion bombs. I don't know if we've spoken about emotion bombs before, but I like just those massive, heavy drama scenes.
Tell me about emotion bombs.
So an emotion bomb is just a moment within a film that absolutely floods you with, you should be feeling something right now. And for me, the moment when Sam takes his mask off, because he knows that he's got the cure, he's got the antibodies, and Rene Russo starts crying because she thinks it's a death sentence for him, stuff like that. When you find out that Casey has got it, and that's a character they built up for you to really like because he's been the comic relief, and you assume, well, they're not going to kill him off. That's
spoilers.
Spoilers. And there's a complexity in one of them where Rene Russo's character Robbie knows that she's got it, but Casey he's kind of a day in advance of her, and she's watching him like turn to mush in front of her. So there's a duality of when she's like feeling really sad for him. It's not just the sympathy of, oh, here's my friend who's dying. It's like, oh, I'm also watching in real time what's about to happen to me.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting dynamic, that idea of like comforting someone who's going to be you.
Yeah, and the threat risk I thought was great in this, because they keep introducing people and being like, as it stands, there's probably enough time for us to save them, and then no, they're dead. It's kind of like a slasher film that just takes it that's prolonged. It's like, here's a character we've introduced. Okay, we give Patrick Dempsey. He's sick. His girlfriend's sick. Dempsey's died. Is the girlfriend going to die? The girlfriend's died. Here's this person. They're sick. Are they going to, and you keep getting those moments to the point where, I mean, obviously it's a Hollywood film. So, deep down, Rene Russo's not going to die.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah, but there is that kind of slasher element of like, oh, who's going to get the virus?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it is, if you had to define it as a film, it's almost like a disaster film. Yeah. But it's a disaster film that is not rooted in spectacle. So you think of other disaster films, and Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, all that sort of stuff. They're all rooted in usually in high spectacle, watching landmarks get destroyed, watching these big high stakes things. This is high stakes, but it's more rooted. It's rooted in realism. Now I know one of the big criticisms of the film, and I'm sure we'll come on to it, is that this is not scientifically accurate. So I'm not saying it is accurate, but it is rooted in a, like you said when you described it, what if this happened? And I know obviously Independence Day, well, what if aliens blew up the White House? But but this is a lot more closer to, it's trying to show you something, that may well happen. And I thought things like that were really interesting. This isn't Armageddon.
No, I think the big thing that they do to make this opposite from those like big blockbusters is your main character is Dustin Hoffman. It's not, I had a look. Apparently, Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson were in the running
Harrison
for that
Ford
character
as well, I read.
Yeah, Harrison Ford would have been punching the evil general at one point, wouldn't he? Mean like, get off my damn virus, that kind of thing. But Dustin Hoffman, he's shorter than me, and I'm 5'5", and he like the most action-packed thing he does is he jumps from a helicopter onto a boat.
A bit, yeah, sort of.
Yeah,
no, I thought that was interesting because this isn't. I really like Dustin Hoffman's work, and this isn't a side of him I've seen before. I'm more associating with things like Tootsie or Hook or the Rain Man and Graduate and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this is leading man in a blockbuster, so I thought that was quite an interesting choice. They obviously tried to go for that more stereotypical leading man, and then well, do you know what? Let's do something different, and I think it works.
Yeah, I think it gives it credence because you're not rolling your eyes at anything in this. I think some people, the final action set piece of the helicopter chase, it feels very much we had to have this. Yeah. Because we need to put something in the trailers to get the dum-dums in. But apart from that, like, he's not going around punching people. He's not doing anything, he's not even doing a roly-poly at all.
Doesn't do a single roly-poly in this film, Dustin Hoffman. It's pathetic, really.
Which is, we've come to my changes already, but it
would have been roly-polies.
When he gets the cure, he roly-polies into the room. And he's got it in a dart.
But you're right. I think, and the drama in this film obviously comes from the circumstances, but the drama and the stakes are more to do with things like the decisions the character has to make. So I think that whereas your more traditional disaster film that we've already touched on really focuses on, well, there's an impending doom, so what would happen? Whereas this has got impending doom, but it also goes and tries to do these thought-provoking things of like, well, what's the right thing to do?
Yeah, his character is more from like the 70s American kind of conspiracy theory type films where it's the one guy against the system who's saying this thing is going to happen. And actually, at the start, you do think Rene Russo's decisions and Morgan Freeman's decisions, they're probably true. Like he says, it's a 1 in a million chance that it's come over. That they're being like, fiscally responsible. By not, and they're saying these are the risks of if we do what you want to do, and it doesn't turn out to be like that. This is going to be terrible. It'll have a terrible impact on us.
Yeah, and even decisions like obviously Donald Sutherland is the villain of the piece, but the way when he talks about having to be objective, well, that is sort of the position that people in authority do have to be in terms of having to be purely numbers driven.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not, that's the way they look at it, I suppose.
I mean, yeah, we're looking at the pandemic. We just all turned into numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
You kind of have to say it like that. Did you say Donald Sutherland is the villain? They don't really portray him as a villain with kind of dramatic music, and he doesn't have a mustache to twirl. But
No.
if he did,
and even to the point where I was watching it and I thought, are his eyebrows more defined to make him more villainous in this?
they grow as throughout the film. I think it's because he gave himself E1101, and that's part of the consequence.
But anyway,
I mean,
sorry,
we're
go
moving
on.
towards something that I do think is on the dislikes, but last of what I do think is good. I think the threat is built really well on this.
I
Like
agree there, yeah.
they keep topping it up, and something that's done really well is that it evolves so that you're not just dealing with the same, like as a dramatic element to go, we're safe with our masks off, and so you understand the kind of context of, right, they've not been touched, they've not been bitten, they are safe. And then it's airborne. That's such a great trailer line as well. Oh my God, it's airborne. You know, I love shouting that at people just on the tube and watching their face.
When the tube stopped because they're waiting for the next one to come in.
You run through, what you do is you run through the tube and look through the other window and go, oh my God, you guys, it's airborne. And just watch, everyone thinks you're hilarious.
Yeah.
So the building of threat, and also it's like, I think it's really well made, and I forgot how well made the introduction is, where you see the different levels of the lab, where it tells you, okay, this is this kind of virus, and this is the kind of safety that they have, and then this is this. So just by doing that, the film is going, look, we're going to the deepest possible threat you can have in terms of this virus.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think one of the things I thought worked really well with that, and with the sort of building of tension and stakes through the film, is that they sort of weave in elements of a detective story, so you know what's happened. So a little bit like some crime dramas, you know who killed who or who did what or whatever.
It's your classic Columbo. Scenario,
and your main characters don't. So you're going, it's Patrick Dempsey. That's how it came in or whatever, and they're trying to figure it out. So that ups the engagement that you have as a viewer with the film. But also they then do that. They do a lot of sort of false takes and red herrings and stuff like that to try and make you think it might be here, might be here, might be there, that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed that. And I think by setting it where they set it in a small town, they did a really good job of using claustrophobia and mania to make you feel like almost the same sort of level of neurosis or paranoia as the characters in the film. So I thought that was really interesting, and that really built tension. Whereas if they'd have just set it in, obviously you couldn't just set it in a city because it would just spread. Yeah,
and also I think there's something more wholesome about small town America. You show the mum of the family who has to go, and that's really heartbreaking. And they just kind of it's quite cold that they obviously it's done to elicit an emotion, but she just becomes a body on the pile at the end. I really struggle with that bit. Yeah, and I don't mean like obviously it's meant to make you upset, but I suppose that was one of the things I was like, that's close to home. Yeah, like after everything, that was like, that's horrible. Like the whole the daughter trying to kiss the mum goodbye, and the dad grabs her, and you're like, oh God, is it because it's not fiction anymore? We saw that. Yeah. Only the only bit that's sadder than that is when Patrick Dempsey can't get the monkey to run off, and it's like, run off. But no, that bit was not close to home in because obviously they didn't know what was going to happen, or did they? Never mind. No, but they did it. The bit I didn't really understand was Patrick Dempsey not finishing his cookie on the plane. Because, he's had a long drive. I would have had that cookie. Yeah, it's just rude. It's going to go stale in a day, that. Anything else? I think that's about it. I really like the direction. I do like, that's what I mean. It's like, this doesn't feel like a dumb action. And if you look at Wolfgang Peterson on either side of this, he does Air Force One and In the Line of Fire. In the Line of Fire, yeah. Very presidential based. It sounds like an insult, but I think he's just a solid director. It's just good work, Yeah, I'd agree. He's he's not jumping out the helicopter firing two pistols as he's doing it, and you get that kind of fun. It's just that it's the investigation mixed with the human drama, and I absolutely love when American blockbusters do that. There's a couple but they've split up, and that's where the tension is. And I genuinely mean that. I love that. I love it in Independence Day. I love it in Twister. Because you can't just have a couple that's like, we're happy, you know, or and then I don't like them ones where it's, we've only just met, but you know, despite this huge tragedy, there should be sexual tension between us, like Volcano, where out of nowhere, Anne Hesh and Tommy Lee Jones are like, we should date or something, I don't know.
It's it's a bit like the estranged bit. I mean, not the people getting together for no reason. It's a bit like the only thing that'll get them back together is a world-ending event.
Yeah.
And it's done so often in these films. It's always like a divorced dad. Like more recently, it's been like a divorced dad trying to get his kid back. I think it's in The Day After Tomorrow. I think it's in 2012.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and
all
I'm fairly certain The Rock's done. What's the helicopter one with The Rock?
Oh, San Andreas.
I'm fairly certain he's got a divorced daughter, a daughter from divorced in that.
Yeah, and it's that thing of like, look, I didn't get on with your dad, but I know in this situation he'll come through.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but once this situation's over, it's going to go back to them being like that. So people don't change.
He's still dysfunctional. He's just a dead good helicopter pilot.
Only now he's got something to hold over you and be like, well, do you remember when I saved your life?
I want a divorce. Well, I don't think you remember, but a couple of years ago, this guy, helicopter saved your life.
One of us stopped a bomb going off in a city and saved America. I can't remember which of us did that, but no, you're right. No,
are you leaving Rene Russo? Yeah. Stop the pandemic says what?
They don't really care about the dogs that much as well, do they?
No, it's like they wrote them in at the beginning, and I almost think it was like they were children and they went, "Oh shit, we can't give them kids because what's gonna." Like... Okay, then. So we'll move on to anything we didn't like about the film or anything we would change about the film. You've hinted already there, Jamie, that there might be a couple of bits. So what's on your list?
Disney cartoon villain.
The roly-poly thing.
Disney cartoon villain Donald Sutherland. My God. Like they have gone really over the top on him being an evil bastard in this.
Yeah.
And to the point that he keeps antagonizing that other general for no reason.
The one who's the mustache.
Yeah, he's just like, oh God, well I wouldn't have messed this up if I was you prick. I bet your wife hates you.
No, you're absolutely right. To the point where one of my things was, doesn't need to be that they're keeping the virus for a biological weapon. Like it could just be he's trying to cover his arse, or that he's so rigid in his thought that he can't see other paths of thought or whatever. It doesn't have to be, oh, do you know what they want to do? They want to keep it as a biological. I mean, it might be that around the time, because I would have been, we would have been kids, so I don't remember if there was anything particularly politically going on that would mean, oh, that's why it was included. Maybe there was. There's always things going on, isn't there? But for me, I just remember thinking it doesn't need to be that they keep it as a biological weapon. It could just be that he's either covering his own arse because he knew about it, or he's just so trying to be so overly objective about stuff. Yeah,
I think it was a bit muddled on. He kind of suggests towards the end that they made the weapon, and it's like all along I thought that they saw it in Africa and were like, oh God, this is big. So bombed it, but kept specimens or something.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought, was that they buried it, and then they realised that if this came out, that they would be the ones who was like those two knew about it.
Yeah, so it kind of muddles it on what was Donald Sutherland's intention for the virus. Is he made the antibodies because he wants to use it in warfare and use that cure on the soldiers while they're. It kind of, you don't really need that extra element.
No, you don't. You
did something awful in the 60s. You covered it up. But like, even if they wanted to make that clear, make it obvious that they actually did trial the virus on that village. Yeah.
You'd only need to put an extra scene in it, wouldn't you? And then you get another scene of their voices on other actors with visors on.
Yeah, just have Morgan Freeman be like, "Well, we didn't trial it." Ooh.
Just breaks the fourth wall. Something I want to ask you about this is, do you, I mean, obviously neither of us are scientists, and I'm not sorry to speak for you, but...
Wow, I've got a film degree from Northampton,
Does scientific... So one of the things I mentioned earlier was that scientific accuracy has been criticised in this film, and my view is, it gets criticism because it's obviously nearer to what's trying to be real life, even though for me, I can still suspend my disbelief. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not watching this as an instructional video.
No.
And I think the only bits that you can say it gives out as medical advice is true. Don't let a sick animal scratch you. If you have a cough, let's say if you're in an airport and you start bleeding from the eyes, probably don't kiss your girlfriend for 20 seconds. Like, it genuinely does. It all has, and you do learn, about mutations in viruses, and they do. Like, the main thing that is like scientifically inaccurate is they say nothing could be this quick in terms of how it acts. But they do say that. They say Ebola takes a week to do this, and what we're looking at is taking hours. Like, they make it clear that the made up virus is it's
very much made up.
Yeah. But I don't think this is harmful. I can't think of anything in there where you will come away from this and you've learned the wrong information.
No, and it's not even doing that thing where some films do, where they frame it as this is based on research or this is based on conversations with scientists. It's clearly fictional. I'm fairly certain Morgan Freeman's never even been a general.
Well, I think there are a lot of sick monkeys out there, so I'll throw a rock at any small monkey I see, just to be careful.
Anything else for you, anyway?
For this league, I think, I did mention there are some dumb choices in this.
Yes,
like the kissing. If you were picking up your boyfriend and he looked that way, you wouldn't kiss him.
No.
Even if he's Patrick Dempsey, he's not hot Patrick Dempsey yet.
No, he's not got that little salt and pepper yet.
There were other like dumb choices, like Kevin Spacey not telling everyone that he's sick. That Casey character, just until he starts hemorrhaging on the floor.
Even though you would know the risks from years of working in that industry, that's like, right, shit, I better isolate myself right now.
Yeah, and they'd be testing constantly as well as doctors. So there's a couple of dumb choices. Apart from that, though, I've heard some criticism of the end, but I actually really like the end.
I don't mind the end.
That he resolves it through convincing someone of his argument. You don't really see that a lot.
No.
Normally, it's it'd be, oh, we'll blow up the plane, or we'll do something big and dramatic. But it's not even the fact that he gets in their way. It's that he convinces the pilots of his agenda. Which I like that it's done through words.
Yeah, so it's slightly more intelligent than, like you say, like a big action set piece, which is like, we've got to get on that plane and get that bomb, or whatever. So
we've got to tell them fellas, don't do that.
Yeah. Don't do it. The evil general is back there with his massive eyebrows. There isn't much for me in terms of what we've not already mentioned. So obviously there is that exposition at the start where they sort of just dump on you, but they're like, listen, Hoffman, Russo, divorced. And they just dump on you a little bit. And I think that, I suppose you could argue, is it or is it not needed? But by the end, I had warmed to them. I think it took a little while to get going, but then I enjoyed it towards the end. Yeah, some of the emotional beats felt a bit closer to home because post-COVID, but again, that's not really a fault of the film. The main problem I have with the film, and I've said this before, and I by no means don't like swearing. I love swearing, but there's bits where they say fuck. And it's like, you don't need to. You don't need to say. What you've done is you've pushed your 12 into a 15 for no reason. If you keep your one fuck that you're allowed for a 12, you could have used it to great effect at the end when he tells Donald Sutherland to go fuck himself.
The bit where the monkey says it is a bit off, I think.
But I think that's a loophole. If an animal says fuck, it's.
I hear what you're saying, but I guess because there was in the 90s and the noughties, there was that wash of just PG-13s, and like we know about the one fuck movie, and it kind of takes me out of it sometimes. I'm like, oh, okay, you used it there. Whereas this, it is kids trying to be big boys, but it's at least telling you this is for adults, and it is adult content, and that's why it's not there's explosions. That's why the one car chase, which is just good people who are scared trying to escape the town, it ends in the car comes to a standstill and they're arrested. It's not, we shot the engine and that blew up. I mean, they did blow up the first ones, but he shows real restraint by only blowing up one of the cars.
Only blowing up the one without a family in it.
Yeah.
First one was full of idiots.
I get what you mean, because I think I can't remember what bit it was, but there is a scene where Dustin Hoffman does just keep saying it, and
there's about 4 of them, and I'm just. It's not that it took me out of it or anything like that. I was just like, you don't need to do that because it's not having much impact on me. Whereas if you save it and use one really well, I think that's why it would work so well at the end. But it wasn't like it completely ruined it or anything for me. It's just something I noticed.
Well, you text me then, you're saying I've had to turn it off for 10 minutes just to have a breather away from all these
I was watching it in a nursery. I should have probably...
Just, if you're naughty, this will happen to you.
Okay, so we'll move on to talking about the critical reception then. Now, I haven't seen the critical reception, but obviously the main reason you picked it is because it's underseen, so we'll come on to the box office in a minute. How do I think it did critically? I think it probably didn't do that well. I did my best to avoid it, but I did see the odd comparison to more recent films. So the big one I saw it compared to was Contagion, which is very, very similar, and a lot of people were saying that they're like nearly 20 years apart, but people were comparing them. I think it probably did all right. I'm going to say it averages out at a 6 out of 10, maybe just above.
Oh, you could be around the money there, Josh.
Oh, okay. Let's hear them.
So your IMDb or your IMDb, 6.6.
Okay.
Are you ready to do the quick maths on this?
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, critics 59%.
Yeah.
The audience 56%.
That's a bit lower than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So that averages out at just above 60%. So we always round down. So 6 out of 10, 60%. I mean, for me, I would say that the average is sort of bob on, but those 50s, I think they're quite low. I think they're quite low. What do you reckon?
So yes, I mean, people might start thinking I'm getting too lenient on movies, but I put this as a 7. I really think it's been undervalued because I think the characters are great, the dynamics between everyone's great. We haven't mentioned Cuba Gooding Jr., but it's great that you get that. Oh, I always love we're part of a setup team, so we brought someone new in so that we can keep giving them guy. Yeah, here you go, exposition guy. This is why we do this, even though you've been trained in it for 20 years. So I put it at a 7. That really hurt my feelings around the critics.
I think that's harsh. So obviously you picked it because it's underseen. So how did it do box office wise? Then I imagine it probably did all right based on the cast and stuff like that.
It actually did really well. $189.9 million I've got as the gross worldwide.
That's not bad.
Which back for what's this 95? That's really good.
Yeah. I think for me it probably falls into that category of not underseen at the time, but I wonder, taking the COVID resurgence aside, are people going back and visiting this, or is it falling into the Volcano, Dante's Peak bracket of people go, oh, that's a disaster film, but no one ever goes and watches it, sort of thing? That's the impression I get. What do you reckon?
Yeah, exactly. People aren't returning to it. I mean, there's stuff in there. I've heard the reference the monkey from Outbreak as like a punchline in a joke, but there's not much else. Kind of, it doesn't really have a footprint. And I think if COVID hadn't happened, we might not even be talking about this now because it would have like just completely fell out of everyone's mind.
Yeah, I agree. So there we go then. Let's say, what we're saying, underrated and underseen?
Underrated, underseen, best film ever.
Underrated, underseen, best film ever.
There we go, Josh. We've covered that. It's your choice next week. What are we watching?
Next week, we're going to be watching and talking about Gone in 60 Seconds. So, yeah. Yes, so join us next week. We're going to be talking about Gone in 60 Seconds. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. We're on all the social medias. If you just search for Just Films and That on Facebook, Twitter /X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and you'll find us. We're always putting stuff out there, so please do give us a follow. We're on Patreon as well, so if you want to support the pod, give us, then you'll get a bit of extra content, ad-free episodes, early access to episodes, and a few other bits and bobs for £1 a month, and the link is in the episode description. So all that remains to be said then is thank you very much for listening. It's goodbye from me. We'll see you next week. Cheerio!
Need new glasses or want a fresh new style? Warby Parker has you covered. Glasses start at just $95, including anti-reflective, scratch-resistant prescription lenses that block 100% of UV rays. Every frame's designed in-house with a huge selection of styles for every face shape. And with Warby Parker's free home try-on program, you can order 5 pairs to try at home for free. Shipping is free both ways, too. Go to warbyparker.com/covered to try 5 pairs of frames at home for free. warbyparker.com/covered.
Give them a gift they'll never forget, because they'll still have it years later. American Giant makes clothes that just keep getting better with age, like their iconic full-zip hoodie that's designed to last for decades. Because a gift they'll wear for years is a gift that keeps on giving. So be a gift-giving giant this holiday season at American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code GratefulAG23. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com. Code GratefulAG23.